Your latest, and you say your last book, was entitled Making Families Work. Now, you have a family of your own. Your first child was born in 1956. Tell us how you made your family work. How was your daily life?
I would hate to hold myself up as a model or my family as a model family. The only thing I tried to do in the books was to check with reality. When I wrote something down, I used to check it against my experience to see whether it was realistic. But as far as the family went, yes, we had 3 children under 3, which was tempting fate, I think. And then we had Timothy 4 years after that. But if you ask me which is more important to me, the books or my own family, well, there's no contest. The family wins outright. The best thing I ever did in my life was to have those 4 children and to enjoy bringing them up.
Can you tell us something about your children individually?
I have this picture of them on a family outing. We were in Windsor Great Park. We were walking for about a straight mile. And the picture I have of them is Peter and I walking together. Way out ahead is John, who ran to an equestrian statue and climbed it before Peter and I were anywhere near the scene. I have a picture then of Frances running after him because she was always trying to catch him up. Timothy is walking with Peter and me and chatting to us. And way, way behind is Paul, dragging his feet and thinking his own thoughts. And I think perhaps that describes the children when they were small fairly well.
That's a lovely and very vivid picture, which brings us to your second record choice, which is Alice's Restaurant, which relates to your parenthood in some way. Can you explain that to us?
Yes, that's about the children at a slightly later stage than the stage in Windsor Great Park. The time when John had a guitar, Tim had a guitar, we'd all sit round the table at 199, and after a meal, immediately the songs would start. Alice's Restaurant was a favourite. I'd love to hear that now in memory of those times.
About Alice.
Let's listen to it.
And the restaurant. But Alice's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant, that's just the name of the song. And that's why I called the song Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. And you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Now it all started 2 Thanksgivings ago. It was on 2 years ago on Thanksgiving when my friend and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. But Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with her husband Ray and Facha's a dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be. And having all that room, seeing as how they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. We got up there, we found all the garbage in there, and we decided it'd be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the city dump. So we took the half a ton of garbage, put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed on toward the city dump. Well, we got there, and there's a big sign and a chain across the
So,
top.
Margaret, we've talked about your children, so let's talk a little bit about your childhood. You were born before the Second World War in 1933, as we've mentioned before. Now, I've had a bit of help with this section, so I want to ask you some specific questions. How would an American captain in 1943 decline the Pope's nose? Can you give us an answer to that?
This would be referring to Bob Brusso, who was billeted on us during the war, and he was offered the parson's nose at Christmas time, and my father says, do you know what the parson's nose is? And he said, it's that part of a chicken that goes over the fence last. And we call it the Pope's nose, I think he said. So I guess that's what that's about.
And he obviously decided not to take it.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Okay. Now, where were you living during the war?
We were living in Teddington, very near to Bushy Park, and there was this great American base in Bushy Park. And the billeting officer came round and said to my mother, you are scheduled to have 5 officers. And she said, but that's impossible. My children each have their own bedrooms. That can't be done. But in the end, she ended up having 2, and they were lovely people.
And how many children were you in the family?
3. I had an older brother and a younger brother.
And you were not evacuated, as most families were during the war?
We
then?
stuck the war out. If being evacuated would be giving in to Hitler, and my father was not going to do that.
And who said, Margie's got the lottest?
Ah, this is my little brother Doug, and I think this dates back to his very early childhood. So that when they were serving round the pudding, Doug had an eye on how much I had and how much John had. And his remark was, Margaret's got the lottest, Daddy hasn't gave me any much. And this, of course, became a story that went down the family every time food was shared out at table.
So obviously there was a lot of competition between you and your younger brother. Is more so than you and your elder brother?
Probably. I was very competitive with my elder brother. My elder brother wasn't competitive with me, he was just there. And because I was 2 years younger, I was always trying to do as much as John, have as much as John, know as much as John, get there faster than John. This seemed to be my one aim in life at one time.
That sounds very much like the story, the relationship between Frances, your daughter, and John, your eldest son.
It was a repeat performance, yes.
Now, your father used to sing a song about a Spanish gentleman who blighted someone's life.
Alfonso Spagoni. My father sang a lot of songs, and he was very apt in the middle of a meal, no, at the end of a meal, I think, to break into song or break into a monologue. And at Christmas time and on special occasions, we would tend to have a family concert. One of his songs was about Alfonso Spagoni, the Toreador.
Now, what made you choose, a very unusual choice, if I may say so, Hoffnung at Oxford University? Does that somehow relate to your childhood memories?
Yes, well, I was talking about my father and his songs and his monologues. One of his monologues was the one about the builder and the pulley. And when I heard Hoffnung's performance at the Oxford Union, he goes into this story, and so I'd love to hear it again in memory of my dad and the concerts.
Let's hear it.
At this point, I must have lost my presence of mind. Because I let go the line. The barrow. The barrow then came down, giving me another heavy blow on the head, and putting me in hospital. I respectfully request sick leave.